Peig, my journey. I am Peig, 23 years old. My life is threatened with pleurisy. 3 days ago, the doctor told me that I must go home and rest. There is nothing he can do. Yesterday, I sent a telegram to my parents to expect me and sent it to Ma, Anne Gallagher and Da, Johnny Frank Lowris in Shanna, Kilcar, County Donegal. Usually, I like to arrive, throw open the door and surprise them. But because I will be going home ill, I wanted to warn them in advance so that they would not be shocked by me coming home with rattly lungs. I have 1 month's sick leave, a whole month to spend at home to get well and restore my strength. Today, I am starting my journey. It is 9 o'clock on the 27th of November, 1941, and I am going from my workplace at Coláiste the Movie, Phoenix Park, Dublin, to my home in Shanna. I'm at the bus stop at Chapel Izzard Gate with my sister Peig and Con. This is the nearest bus stop to the college. The distance to the station is 5 miles and takes about 20 minutes. We get on the number 69 bus and sit upstairs in the front seats. These are our favourite seats. We're able to see everything from up here. The bus is carrying us through Dublin to Amiens Street Station, not far from the Liffey. So the bus goes along the quays, across O'Connell Street, to the left of the Custom House, around the corner up Gardner Street, and past the grey stone of the Labour Exchange building. We only come to this part of the city to catch the train. It's full of shabby hotels and cheap bed and breakfasts for people to stay in when they come up from the country. It has a bit of a reputation. We swing round the corner and pull up outside the station. The day is grey, damp and cold, and I can feel the pain in my chest with every breath I take. My ribs are scraping and scratching against my tired, jaded lungs. I'm wearing a raincoat, a pair of leather knee boots and carrying a brown suitcase. I buy my ticket. It costs 2 shillings and 6pence. This is a good part of my weekly wage. It does not seem much because I'm going home. Taking my ticket, the 3 of us stand for a few minutes on the platform, wondering if there might be anyone from Donegal getting on the train. As we wait, we talk about when I might return, and I say that I don't know when I will be back. Peig gets a bit peeved and purses her lips like in a bit of a pout because deep down she is furious at me for being ill, and worse still, going home mid-term without her. She's really wishing to be travelling home with me herself, wanting to be with me, knowing the fun we would have together, and especially the thought of the 2 of us arriving at the house when they were only expecting me. This time she would be the surprise, but she could not come. Con is grinning at the 2 of us, fully enjoying our dilemma. He knows well that if he's going to have anything more to do with me, he will have to learn to love Shanna and all my brothers and sisters and dispel the Donegal myth that all Dubliners are just jackeens. He's standing there in his Irish Army uniform, watching the guards as they load the train. He helps a few people who are struggling with their bags. He's always on the go. The latest thing is his assignment to the motorcycle squadron. Of course, he had signed up as part of the emergency early on and is now stationed at McKee Barracks, not far from the college, which is how we met. We used to walk back together to the college through Chapel Izzard Gates, from the odd social event in the hall in Chapel Izzard. Really, the first time we met was when he turned up at the college one day and peered in through the kitchen window. I glanced up and saw this fella looking at me through the window and pointing down. Around his uniformed knees was a dog on a string, looking really miserable and hungry. Con had found him wandering around and decided to give him some food. Sure, I felt sorry for the two of them and gave them enough scraps to feed the dog, for a few days anyway. While I'm away, Con on his motorbike will be on surveillance, travelling all over the country. As we stand on the platform, the snow starts falling very lightly. Although the doctor had diagnosed pleurisy, as I stand and wait here, I think the severe pain in my lungs is beginning to ease. I'm so happy to be going home, and to be honest, not feeling one bit sad to be leaving them behind. Because despite my painful lungs, I know I'm going to be all right, and I will have a good time. We laugh our goodbyes, happy with the early snow display, and we finally say our farewells. I get on the train. It's quite full. I look around and I don't see anyone on the train that I recognise. Sitting at the window, I look out, waving more goodbyes to Breach and Con as they stand waving back goodbye and willing me to come back soon. Con shoots me an uncertain glance, realising that it could go either way. He knows about my attachments to Ma and Da, the land and the mountains of my home place. He knows too how my heart is pulling me back to him. But my health problem and longing for Donegal is ever present. So he grins and nods another farewell. I need to get well, and all the what-ifs will be for later. The snow begins to swirl around them, and the flurries start to fall a bit heavier, landing on their shoulders. They're soon enveloped in a white haze. The guard's whistle blows, the train steams and thuds and chugs and bellows as it moves out of the station. They walk down the platform steps and are soon out of sight. I'm on the 10 o'clock train from Dublin to Killybegs, a 6.5-hour journey, which means I will get into Killybegs at 4:30 p.m. Johnny O'Donnell, the busman, will be waiting for the train to arrive. It'll be straight off the train into the bus, and sure, I'll be at Cashlands Crossroads an hour later. The mile-long walk up the glen will take me half an hour, and then I will be home in Shanna, late as 6 o'clock. I open the daily paper, The Independent, and read bits here and there. I read the headlines and have no idea what I read about. But the news these days is overwhelming. The war, the emergency and the bombs, planes, blitz, Hitler, death, dead soldiers. There's a big bit about Brendan being deported out of Borstal in England and now back in Dublin. He was caught in Liverpool with a box full of homemade explosives in preparation for a bombing campaign. He's done 2 years already and he's only 18. Famous for everything, drinking, being a rebel and wanting to bomb everything British. But with all that, sure, he is a great writer and a published poet. The news and articles all seem remote as the train chugs past dark, dreary Dublin tenements, Georgian squares. I put down the paper. I think about other things and then stop thinking. The clouds outside grow darker and the sky is full of snow, falling heavier and faster by the minute. The train stops at Mullingar. Some people get off and some more get on the train. Stops at Longford. No one gets off and no one gets on. We get to Sligo and most people leave and no one gets on. It seems that there are very few people travelling north. Trains have their own logic these days. Some run fast and some meander around, connecting with all the branch lines. Con knows all about which one to get on and get off. So between him and advice from the principal of the college, who loves trains, I always seem to manage to get the quickest and the safest routes. The border makes everything a bit complicated for us going to Donegal. So between the war, the emergency and the border, there's always something to take into account. The Bundoran Express runs from Amiens Street Station via Dundalk, through the north to Ballyshannon and on to Bundoran. This is the way I really like to go because it is the more straightforward route. However, that one is not running today. Trains get cancelled and diverted a lot these days. To be on the safe side, I was advised to take the 10 o'clock via Sligo, as it was the best route to travel at the moment, even though this involves a change of trains to the Sligo, Leitrim and Northern Counties Railway, and then another change at Strabane in the north. They say this is a good way to go because this line is privately owned by people on both sides of the border and not the Free State. It's able to carry on normally with cross-border operations. When I arrive in Strabane, there will be a quick switch to the rail car to travel south, back into the Republic and into Killybegs. I look around the train, and there are just a few huddled passengers sunk in their coats, looking disbelievingly as the weather closes in and the train pulls out of Sligo station. Through Glenfarne and Belco, each small town a step nearer Shanna. I am going home, and that is all that matters to me. I'm ill and I'm going home, and it's snowing. Sure, now it's just the long stretch to Enniskill and Strabane and then on to Killybegs. The train pulls out of Enniskillen station. No one boards or leaves, and we continue on via Ballinamallard, Bundoran Junction, Tramore, Fentona, Omagh. The snow is not too bad along some of these stretches of track, so I sink into the seat and enjoy the little towns, stone bridges, embankments, and big, well-managed farms. It's dark now as we pull into Strabane, the border town between County Donegal and Northern Ireland. The driver comes along and tells us the train is terminating here and that we have to get off. I'm a bit confused. Normally, we would change to the narrow-gauge 3-foot-wide rail car here in Strabane and rattle on down through Stranorlar, sway our way through the Barnesmore Gap. Leaving Donegal town behind, we would head west and be in Killybegs in no time. The driver says that the train is blocked to Stranorlar and Killybegs with a heavy fall of snow. I get off the train and go to the man in the ticket office, and I give out to him for not warning us before we left Dublin about the weather. It was not in the papers. There was no word about snow in the papers. They should have told us. Someone must have known about the weather conditions before we set out. Even though I had spent most of the journey marvelling at the snow, it was just incredible to me that it might impede my journey home. I'm ill, it is November, and by now I'm tired, hungry, and in pain. There is another passenger behind me at the ticket office. He comments that I seem very anxious to get to Killybegs. I explain that I need to get home as I am ill. I stand there as he inquires about the possibilities of getting to Donegal town. He seems as anxious as I am to get to Killybegs. After a long while, he asks me if I can find a place to stay, and I say that there is a bed and breakfast close to the station, just a 5-minute walk away. He tells me he has a plan to get to Killybegs the next day and that I would be welcome to join him. He has managed to hire a Morris miner, and with a bit of luck, we could be having lunch in Killybegs tomorrow. I agree. He introduces himself as Mr. MacLeod. We shake hands and I say, "I'm Peig." I make a little reminder to myself. I'm ill, I'm 23 years old. It is 5 o'clock in the evening. I'm in the border town of Strabane in Northern Ireland, which is part of Great Britain, which is at war with Germany, Italy, and possibly Japan. And that war is raging. The Germans are bombing everything. The IRA are trying to bomb the railways and everything that crosses the border. The Irish government, led by Eamon de Valera, is trying to be neutral because, having just freed ourselves from British rule and having been starved to death and massacred by the British for hundreds of years, the last thing we want is to be under their control ever again. The British want the ports to fight the Germans. Trains are being blown up, houses bombed. I'm here, on the border, snow everywhere, heading off to a bed and breakfast with a plan to travel in a Morris Minor with another passenger or two to Killybegs in the morning. Now, I know that Strabane is about 60 miles from Killybegs, north to southwest. Donegal town is due south and 40 miles away, so we would have to get through Donegal town before turning right for Killybegs. Now, I start to worry. What if the road is blocked with snow? Where do we go? I'm beginning to think that I will end up back in Dublin, and how pleased Breed will be. So I go to this bed and breakfast. I can't remember whether I eat anything or not. My lungs are rasping against my rib cage. I realise as we get to the bed and breakfast that I have to share the bed with another stranded passenger, a woman from the town of Bruckless, who is also trying to get home. I have no idea who she is. I climb into the bed with white clean sheets and have a very restless, disturbed sleep. In the early morning, after a big breakfast of bacon, egg and sausages, we meet again, we two. This nameless passenger, whom I have just shared a bed with, and who I never want to see again in my life, and Mr. MacLeod. The roads are covered in snow, and the sky is still laden down with more of it. We nod to each other, get into this little blue Morris Minor, and start our 40-mile drive to Donegal town. It's a very, very long way to go when you can't see the road. We crawl along. Not only can we not see the road, we cannot recognise where the road might be. There is not another vehicle anywhere. The snow-covered land completely unmarked, untrodden. On we go. Nothing to distinguish a river, a bridge, a gate. Sometimes we are pushing the car forward, sometimes we are shoveling the snow from under the wheels. I have no idea how, but somehow we arrive in Donegal town. I'm thinking, just 17 miles to go to Killybegs and then the bus to the crossroads. We sit in the car and Mr. MacLeod gets out to make a phone call. He comes back with the grim news that we cannot travel by road to Killybegs. The road is impassable. Deep drifts of snow everywhere. But he says he has a plan. We could travel in the opposite direction to Bundoran, just another 18 miles away, in the wrong direction. He says, with a bit more luck, he can get us to Killybegs that night. Not knowing Mr. MacLeod at all, and having just spent 6.5 hours trying to get this far, a little more luck seems a bit too hopeful. I would be back to Dublin, no doubt about it. I saw a bit in the paper about the Sunderland flying boat. I had never seen one, and definitely one would be most unlikely to be sitting anywhere near Donegal Bay, waiting to rescue us. Apart from that miracle happening, I'm beginning to lose hope. The numbness begins to set in. The woman disappears into a haze of snow and cold. We wish each other good luck, and she's gone. The road to Bundoran, although heavy with snow, has allowed us to pass, and I'm willing us along mile by mile. At long last, we are making progress over the 18 miles. The dim lights of the town are beginning to get brighter and come into focus as we get nearer and nearer. At last, we pull into Bundoran, and Mr. MacLeod asks me if I'm hungry. It is now 10 hours since we left Strabane. We go into a restaurant and eat potatoes, fish and vegetables. He leaves to make a phone call, returning to say that we are ready to go. He assures me that all will be well, that he has just crossed the Atlantic on one of the convoys searching for German submarines, and they were stuck in ice up in the Arctic for a week. His journey from the Clyde to Killybegs is a lot easier than the passage he has just been on. Heartened by this, I gather my coat around me and belt it tight. I'm wearing a knitted hat, fur-lined boots to my knees, nylon stockings, grey woolly gloves, a lined warm raincoat with a cape, knitted jumper and cardigan, plain knit, black woolen skirt to my knees, no jewellery, a woolly grey scarf to match my hat and gloves, my round brown glasses high on my nose and wrapped around my ears. Not feeling any pain, not even feeling cold. Mr. MacLeod is wearing a long black Crombie coat and a brown Trilby hat. He explains his plan and off we go. The little blue Morris Minor is left parked on the side of the road. We walk along to the seafront until we reach a tiny jetty. There, we find a rowing boat, a man sitting, waiting, holding 2 sets of oars. We get in, take our oars, and row out to sea. It is still snowing, and now the cold is seeping through us both. We row on, my lungs tugging at me inside my chest. My head is down. I'm just pulling on the oars. 1 and 2, and 1 and 2, into the dark, and further on into the dark night, not seeing anything, not feeling anything. We are in a little boat, me and Mr. MacLeod, heading out to Donegal Bay and the Atlantic Ocean. What if just pull on the oars and worry about the pains later? I'm shivering now. It's getting ever colder, and our slow little boat seems sad and lost in this snow. Silent, threatening water. If we could just go a bit faster. I think briefly about Con and the hot day in the summer when we took a boat out fishing and we got stuck in the outgoing tide as we headed for Killiney. A helpless feeling had swept over me. We said nothing to each other. He just squared his shoulders, lifted his oars and pulled without pausing until we bumped onto the beach. I can see the set of him now as he willed and rowed us against the tide and back to safety. So now I did what he did. I lifted my shoulders up to my ears, knocked an oar against the rowlock for the sound of it, and joined in with the rhythm of Mr. MacLeod. Inching forward, heave by heave, pull by pull. And then, suddenly, the silhouette. There it is, right in front of us. The great bulk of the 50-foot Martha Helen, waiting for us in the glass silent sea. The snow is vertical, the sea is flat. Time is still. We tie up alongside and grip the rails. Held by 2 men, I climb the ladder and board the beautiful, big, sturdy fishing boat. It was unable to moor in Bundoran due to the lack of a pier and had anchored beyond the peak. The 2 fishermen were delighted to see their boss and the owner of the boat, Mr. MacLeod. We head straight across the bay for Killybegs. It is a distance of about 18 miles across, and we can see nothing. It is pitch black. I sit on the big, wide-open deck and a pile of ropes next to the engine with my umbrella up, all alone. A few flickering lights, barely visible, show Killybegs. The Martha Helen is well known and familiar in Donegal Bay. The 3 men are happy and competent, and for the period of that journey, I feel safe. We get there and moor alongside the pier. Mr. MacLeod makes me promise that I will stay in Killybegs for the night. I promise that I will stay with my father's cousin, who lives at the top of the town. We say goodbye and we part. I've lost track of time, but I think it's between 7 and 8 o'clock at night as I set off up the hill and stop at Mr. McGill's house, my father's first cousin. I really want to end my journey here. I just want to knock at the door, throw myself at their mercy, curl up in a ball and go to sleep. Instead, I decide not to go in because I think they might not recognize me in the dark, and that if I do go in, they might not let me leave in the morning. So I break my promise to Mr. MacLeod and keep walking. It is still snowing. The white snow, the threatening sky and the dark night shrouds everything. So I am now completely alone, and I have to walk 7 miles through deep snow. I've nothing to light the way but a faint glimmer now and again from a house. No light in the sky. Everything is diminished and dominated by the snow. And I think of Breed and Con, warm in Dublin. I think of Con and feel a bit sad because he too is alone. His dad, Joseph, died in August. Joseph's wife, Elizabeth, would also be sad and alone. They give me comfort as I face up the hill. I know that there is a bend somewhere, but I can't see it. So I just follow anything and hope I'm on the road. Step after step, I pull my boots out of the snow and move slowly, mile after wretched mile, one step at a time. I know I would be welcomed in any of the remote, half-buried houses. Sure, we knew all the families going back generations, many related to ourselves. At each house I pause, put down my suitcase, look longingly at the glow from the tilly lamps, and will myself to stop and knock on their doors. But all I do is stop, look, pick up my case and walk on to the next one. I convince myself that if I get to the next one I will stop, but when I get to the next one I decide to go further. The tiny lights from houses lure me on. The trees are laden down with snow. No one about, not a sinner. I walk on until I get to Jimmy Macaulay's lane. I rest there, but I start to sink, down and down. Then I think, the snow is so deep that I can't stop here or anywhere anymore. I will have to keep going. I have to keep moving now. All I can do is shift my case from one hand to the other. There is very little familiar in this strange white landscape, and I'm wondering, what if I don't make it? My breathing is difficult. All the doubts begin to surge about Con. He's different to us people here in this desolate mountainy place. Our life, speaking only in Gaelic, English a foreign language. Our wild music and dancing, our self-reliance, growing and eating all our own produce, caring for the land, digging, planting, cutting turf, salting fish. His life, without a mother since he was 5 years old, no brothers or sisters. His allegiances to Fianna Fáil and his father's sacrifice to the cause of Irish liberty. A legacy that he carries with him, being called after his dad's friend, the hero, Con Colbert, and his middle name from Eamon de Valera. Ma and Da have no time for de Valera. They go with the Fine Gael party, Michael Collins, and the partition of Ireland. So, Con and I would have to reconcile our different political beliefs, our different backgrounds, and hope for the best. On the other hand, what if I don't know where I am? I don't recognise Cashlan Bridge. It might be it. I could be in the river. I think I have come round the line. I think I'm going to die. I go on and I go on. I think this is the crossroads and I turn right. And I pull myself along. Sometimes I crawl out of drifts. My glasses are frozen and I can't really see anyway, so I breathe into my sore, painful chest, and on I go. The night is dark. The sky is dark. The future is dark. And Con is there somewhere waiting for me with his rescued dog, waiting for me to come back. I'm tired. So tired. I think I can see Ma and Da sitting at the fire, slowly, quietly getting ready for bed. The embers dwindling into the grate. My brothers John and Patrick playing cards. And they're waiting for me to come and wondering where I am. The lane to the house is long and steep, with 3 bends. Even though the lane is buried in snow, I know it's every inch. I know what lies beneath. I know where the dangers are. I lurch myself forward, and my legs pick themselves up and move and propel me upwards. Beneath the trees, the snow-buried fuchsia, hydrangea and blackcurrant bushes guide me on. I get to the wall, and the house reaches out for me, and I throw the door open. Ma and Da, Patrick and John jump to their feet. Sacred Heart of Jesus, it's Peig! Peggish Thor! Where did you come from? And looking beyond me ask, where is Breach? Half collapsed, I sit with them around the big glowing fire of burning turf and tell them my story. Warm soda bread with Ma's butter melting on the top, and a cup of hot milk from our own cows. I feel warm, loved, and safe. They tell me that they did not get my telegram at all, and that they have been sitting up expecting and waiting for my sister Kitty to arrive from Teelan. Not me. My telegram has not arrived, so they're not expecting me at all. In fact, the telegram does not come until the following week. That night, wrapped in Ma's thick nightdress, warmed by the fire, swaddled in her handmade sheets and red quilted woolen blankets, I go to my bed. Down in the room, as the fire dwindles and the telly lamp is dimmed, the smell of the turf embers comfort me, and I fall asleep. I am home.